What's going on, guys? Well, today I have another knife review for you, and we're looking at a Schrade model SCH111. This is a neat little Karambit. This is set up like a neck knife, so that's how I've been using it. Of course, you guys know how much I love neck knives. It is a little bit large for a neck knife. I mean, the actual knife itself is 6.3 inches overall, 2.9 inch blade. All right, but with that sheath, you can see I have excess length on there. It's a little bit bigger than I'm used to for a neck knife. This is a Joshua Wagner design. It's definitely an awesome looking knife. I do have some issues with it, and the biggest issue, the number one issue that I'd like to see change is its size. This knife is just too small for my hands, and I just have large hands. I mean, they're not massive, you know, but they're large. It's just a little bit too small for my hands. Okay, so let me explain what I'm talking about here. Being a Karambit style knife, of course, when you're holding it in a forward grip, most people would probably use the pinky hole on the bottom. If I do that with a nice, natural, relaxed grip, you can see how my finger is up on that edge. That's not good. Although I'm not cutting myself and I can get a pretty good squeeze on there, just don't feel comfortable enough to use it like that. Okay, so what I have to do is, if I'm holding it with the pinky through the ring, I tend to scrunch my fingers down and I don't have a really comfortable grip. So what I've been doing in using this is I actually backed off a finger and I use my ring finger, okay, as the finger hole. Pinky just kind of hangs out, you know, but then I have a really nice grip on it. Same thing with the reverse grip. Most commonly used Karambits in the reverse grip for, say, self-defense. You would use your pointer finger inside the ring. So when I do this naturally, you can see where my fingers land. And as I close my grip, that pinky is up on that edge. Okay, so I can't get a good squeeze on there. I can squish my fingers down in here, but again, it's not natural, it's not comfortable. So what I will do is switch over to a finger. Okay, so now my pointer finger doesn't have anything to grip onto, but I could still get a really nice grip in this position. It's just a little bit awkward, it's not quite as natural. I've adjusted specifically, you know, to test this knife and stuff, but I just like to see this design a little bit bigger. What's cool about this is that there's a lot of people out there that have really small hands. And most knives that are available right now, like especially Karambits, they may be way too big for you. Okay, so if you particularly have small hands, this is going to be awesome because this is something I've never had a Karambit that was this small overall. Okay, so if maybe you're a female watching the video, or you're a guy that's younger, or you're just any old guy that just happens to have smaller hands, you might really like this. It might really fit your hand like no other knife ever has.
A man's got to play with the hands he's dealt.
But for the common average guy, it's a little bit too small. Okay, now of course you don't have to use the ring. You can hold it like this, okay, over top of it. In that case, I can naturally get a good bite on here because it's much fatter here and narrower towards the center of the handle. It's still very comfortable, but I mean, come on, we have a Karambit. I got to put something in there, right? So that's why I naturally want to do that, but I can't. Okay, so either I'll use the ring finger or I'll just have to grab over it. Okay. As far as other aspects of the design, it's very smooth. There's no jimping or anything like that. Maybe a positive or negative, just depends on how you look at it. One thing I really like about this knife is I love the blade style. I love how slender this is, and I love how pointy and how lean this gets. Okay, a good Karambit, I mean, specifically if you're going to use it for self-defense. And again, you know, I don't have any experience with this. I'm not going out like a ninja every day and slashing people. But you can use some common sense here. If you did have to use this in a defensive situation, this thing is going to be devastating. Okay, look how thin that is. I mean, it does have a nice edge on it from factory. Use this a little bit to cut cardboard because it has a nice curve in it. You do get a really good slicing action with this, but this is probably not going to be someone's EDC choice just because you're limiting yourself with a you know, a hawkbill style blade, especially one that's so thin here. So, you know, if you're using this as, say, an EDC because it's a cool design, but you do want to use it every day, you do have a very fragile tip. But I don't see that as a negative because that's not, in my opinion, you know, the purpose of this knife design. Having an extreme hawkbill like this is kind of meant for self-defense. This will bite down very easily, okay, into flesh and meat and skin and all that kind of gory stuff, and do a very good job at defending yourself, okay, and opening it up, you know, a person. So if that's what you're buying it for, just to have it, just in case, it is a very cool Karambit design. Like I said, the biggest downside for me is it's just too small. Again, 2.9 inch blade, which is nice because a lot of places have a 3-inch blade limit. A lot of different knife companies do consider this. You know, sometimes it's not always random how big that blade is. They do consider, okay, well, some states have a 3-inch or less limit, so they make a bunch of different knife designs. They're right there, 2.9 inches. You know what I mean? You'll see that it's very common with blade lengths to be 2.9 inches or 3.9 inches. You know what I mean? So they're just under that threshold for a lot of different states within the United States to be legal to carry and use. All right, so that's not by coincidence. I do like the design. It's finished nicely, but it's not quite rounded as much as I would like to see. Again, I mean, this is just another, you know, step in processing, so that would raise the price. These, as they said, are about 20 bucks everywhere I've seen them, and believe it or not, they're not really sold a lot of places yet. I don't know if that's because they're still somewhat new of a design. I'll link you guys. I saw it on Midway USA for sure. I know that they're being sold there. I think also Knife Depot, but I haven't seen them on Amazon. I haven't checked eBay yet, so you know, of course you could find them, but they're not like all over the place. So hopefully more dealers will have these in the future. But yeah, they're about 20 bucks. I saw them for $19.99 at the 3 places that I saw them. And for 20 bucks, you know, it's a good deal if it's going to fit your hand. But what I'm getting at here is that I would like to see a little bit more rounding. Okay, it's squared off, but it's not like the edges are knocked off. It's not sharp or anything. Okay, you couldn't like spark a ferrite seam rod or anything like that. They do have a nice coating on it. It's a handsome looking design. It's a badass looking blade, but again, just too small for my liking. As far as the sheath though, I do have a couple of concerns with it. The fit is fine, but it snaps in, as you can see there, but you do get a little bit of a wiggle. Let me kind of hold this chain so you don't hear that. Actually, that time it snapped in nicely. Sometimes when I was using it, it had a little bit of a wiggle. Okay, so it snapped in. You can hear that. I mean, it's barely there, but it's worth noting. This is not a Kydex material. I actually don't mind. It's just a molded plastic, thermoplastic, whatever it is. What I do mind, though, is that it's a little excessive. You know, you can see how much extra sheath there is. You know, with most, especially smaller knives, especially neck knives, you want as little sheath as possible. You just basically want that to house a knife. I'm not sure if it's just, you know, for aesthetics to have this curve out and then back in. That could just be the reason, but for me, I'm seeing a lot of excessive material. This really should just kind of follow the lines in the knife. Just my opinion, of course. Did come with a ball and chain necklace as well as a cord, okay, in case you wanted that option. All right, so here's the cord, which I'm not using currently. I do prefer the ball and chain. Blade steel on this is a 9CR18 MOV. Again, think about the purpose of this. This is probably not going to be everyone's EDC knife. For $20, the blade steel, I'm okay with that. You know, it's definitely not the best steel in the world. It's definitely on the soft side. Positives to that, easy to sharpen. Negatives, you're going to need to sharpen it. If you're going to be using the thing, it's going to get dull fairly quickly, so you're going to need to touch that up. As far as recurved blades and hawkbill style blades and stuff, not that hard to sharpen. I did a video years ago on this subject, but I'll probably do an updated video to show you guys how to touch up your edges like this. It's much easier than you think, okay? But yeah, I mean, cool little knife, but little is the key word here. It's not super tiny, but it's too small for me to use that ring, which is disappointing because I mean, that's the biggest sell for me, is having that secure grip on this. I mean, once you have a good karambit, a good fit in your hand, and you get your finger through that ring, it's not coming out no matter what. All right, and specifically for a defensive situation, if you're ever going to pull a knife on someone to, you know, defend your life, you don't want to drop it. You know what I mean? So that's why it's kind of a go-to design for a lot of people for that respect. But you know, to be honest, even though it's a purposely built knife for defense, there's still going to be lots and lots of people out there who buy this knife just because it's cool. And not just this one, I'm talking any karambit. I know people who EDC karambits, and they kind of like it because they have an option for a good self-defense design, but they just like it because they're cool. And believe it or not, I mean, that's going to rip open packages like nobody's business. But again, the downside is you have a very fragile tip there. Okay, so it's not uncommon to see those tips snapped off karambits because people use them for utility, which they're not really meant. I mean, this specific one is just so slender and so lean towards the tip. It's not going to hold up for heavier cutting chores. If you're ripping open a box and you hit a staple or something, that's going to snap right off. But anyway, I think it's really cool. There's another larger Karambit, which is very interesting, from Joshua Wagoner, which I'm going to do a review on in the future as well. But I just want to start off with this one. Carried this one, it was a couple months back, but again, about 3 weeks or so, 4 weeks maybe, total on and off. It wasn't really consistent because I was always carrying my other neck knives. I liked it, but not enough to continue carrying it. Very few changes need to be made to this for me to completely fall in love with it. Like I said, I absolutely love this blade style. I'd like to see a slimmer sheath. I'd like to see a slightly larger knife. But if you always found yourself to have pretty small hands and you're finding that a lot of the knives you're buying are just too big for you, I'm telling you, this one is where it's at. You know what I mean? So I see it as a negative, but someone out there may love it. You know what I mean? But definitely worth mentioning. For just an average hand, I just think that you're not going to get that grip you're really looking for with a Karambit. So anyway, hopefully you guys liked the video. I thank you very much for watching, as always. The most valuable thing we have is our time, and I appreciate you spending a little bit of your time watching my videos. So thank you. So anyway, hope you guys have an awesome day, and I'll see you soon.